Okay, we're live. Awesome. Good evening, one and all. Welcome to our weekly Facebook Live. My name is Solomon Wangwe, founder, managing director of Goshen Acquisitions and its wholly owned subsidiary, Grand Acres, the most transparent and value giving land sellers in Kenya. Hands down, anyone tells you different, either they're lying or they have no clue what they're talking about. Thank you for tuning in. It's now 8:04, 8:04, 8:05 p.m. East Africa time. We're in Nairobi. If you're joining us from somewhere else, it's really cool if you can let us know where from. Just type the city that you're tuning in from. It blesses us to know where our awesome community is joining us from. So we can celebrate that in our own little way. But if you know someone as well who will benefit from today's convo, as always, make sure you copy this and share the link with someone. Don't be selfish. Good vibes. Share the good vibes. And if you haven't subscribed yet to our channels, please do so. Like, subscribe, share, please. Okay. Without much further ado, because we do this for just 1 hour, I'll open the floor to all your questions, comments, criticisms, commentary, anything you want to talk about around real estate or land investment here in Kenya. You're most welcome to. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you that I don't know. And we'll definitely make sure that we find the answer for you. So bring them on. I see I am just Maggie watching from Dubs, Dubai, UAE. Thank you so much. Aurelia underscore rebranded from Colorado, USA. Thank you so much for tuning in, Aurelia. Joroge Eras. I don't know where Joroge is joining us from. He didn't say. Ruiru. Glad he says you're in Ruiru. That's Kamodo. Hey, Kamodo. Nyatiareu. Wemuega. Okay. Washira, I see you. IK underscore already. Thank you for tuning in. Everyone, every man, TikTok. I can't even keep up. Your names are scrolling up so fast. Thank you all so much. Mackenzie, I see you guys. Thank you for tuning in. We're also streaming live on Facebook and Twitter, not Twitter, LinkedIn. Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, besides Instagram and TikTok. So just quick run through Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. 5 platforms simultaneously because we're live and we want to reach as many of you as possible. So share the link, guys. Don't keep it to yourself. If you know someone who will benefit from this conversation, has a question to ask, has a comment to make, maybe they're super experienced buying land in Kenya, we could learn something too. Okay, it's all about good vibes and making sure we're learning together, so that we can make safe investments back here in Kenya. So let's start with your question. Do we have anyone posted a question yet? Okay, we'll just sit here and wait for your questions until you send them through. Oh yeah, someone mentioned, someone last time, or is it the time before that? I see Ndindi Nganga. What's up, Ndindi? Thank you for tuning in. I haven't seen Ndindi forever. Yikes. Ndindi, we should catch up whenever you have time. Sajid underscore Dima, I see you. Thank you for tuning in. Great. First question of the day on Facebook from Jen Ketet says, when land is transferred to family members, will there be stamp duty and other charges? Jen Ketet, that's a great question. And the honest answer is that it'll depend. It'll depend on whether it's part of a succession process or not, and whether the land being transferred was a primary residence or primary homestead versus just a random investment out there. Okay, because stamp duty exemptions only apply for primary residences or properties, meaning you can demonstrate to KRA with documentation like electricity bills, water bills, um, any other receipts around maintenance and upkeep of the property, that it has been used as a primary settlement. Okay, only those qualify for stamp duty waivers from KRA. Otherwise, um, sorry, let me rewind. I'm mixing things up here with apologies. So, stamp duty is payable even when you're transferring to family members. Okay. What is waivable is capital gains tax for primary property, primary residence or primary settlement property. I hope that makes sense. So, just for clarity again, Jen Ketet, if the land is being transferred to a family member, stamp duty applies. Anytime you're changing ownership of a property um, from one individual to a completely different other individual, stamp duty applies. If, for instance, the land was registered to you and you're transferring it to a company and you are the only shareholder of that company, then stamp duty could be waived because you are still the same entity behind the company. But if you're going to transfer to completely different entities or persons, then stamp duty will still apply. Capital gains tax is the one that you could get a waiver on if the property being transferred can be demonstrated to be a primary residence and therefore not subject to capital gains tax. I hope that's clear. If I can clarify further, let me know, Jen. But that's a great question. And thank you for being the first one to ask a question today. Robbie Quinn on Instagram says, hello, sir. Can I buy land through you? What I mean is, if I have seen land on sale and it's not one of the lands Grand Acres is selling, can I come to you guys so I can buy the land through you? Unfortunately, not Robbie Quinn. We only deal with properties that we own ourselves. Okay? What you're looking for is a bona fide conveyancing advocate to help you. Okay, so rather than come to an entity like ourselves, I strongly recommend that you do step number 6 of a Grand Acres checklist, 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya. Hire a licensed advocate of the High Court of Kenya, specifically one or preferably one who specializes in conveyancing, to help you go through that process so that you don't make any mistakes along the way that could jeopardize your ownership or put into question your ownership or your successors thereafter. Okay? And thank you for that question. Hey, Washu. That's Washu Ndirangu, our serial participant. I think Washu is ahead of Ahadi today. Yeah. Hey, Washu, it's good to see you. Stamp duty determines the value too at the time of transfer, I think. Must be paid. Yes, Washu. So stamp duty is a great way to demonstrate a valuation because a valuation is determined by a government valuer who then submits or facilitates your submission of that valuation declaration to KRA so that stamp duty is assessed based on that valuation. So it's very difficult to argue with someone about the value of a property when a stamp duty percentage, whether 2% for freehold or 4% for leasehold, has been paid to the government of Kenya. Because What that means is that the government of Kenya has established a base value. Now, normally, government valuations tend to be slightly lower than market valuations. That's been my experience. And that difference could be as extreme as 15% lower or 20% lower. Okay, we've had all the situations where government valuation came in higher than the actual market rate or the transaction value. That's very rare. And in our experience, there's two specific occasions I can think of where the government valuer, because we refused to pay a kickback to reduce the stamp duty, which is a common practice. A lot of people underdeclare the value of a property when they're transferring. Why? Because that then in turn lowers the stamp duty amount, which can be a very heavy expense when you're buying land, obviously. So we got approached by a government valuer to underdeclare the value of our transaction. We said no, because we were not interested in paying them any bribe or kickback. And in retaliation, believe it or not, they actually assessed a much higher value. In this one, the first instance, it was 3 times the market valuation and transaction value, just to teach us a lesson because we refused to pay them a bribe. That is very rare, but it can happen. You can challenge it if you need to, but it's very difficult to argue with that valuation. Once it's established and the government of Kenya has receipted for a stamp duty amount based on whatever value has been assessed, that's a good way to have a reference that's almost beyond the argument. Okay, and that's what Washu is making reference to. And it has to be paid before the transfer is effected, right? When you submit your documents, government valuer makes the assessment and you pay to KRA through iTax. It's now done online, before the transfer of ownership can be effected by the Ministry of Lands Registrar. So happy stamp duty payment to you. Well, I say that because if you're paying stamp duty, obviously you're acquiring something. Also, let me just point out, stamp duties are typically paid by the transferee, not the transferor. Whoever is buying the property will pay the transfer tax, stamp duty. That is the norm. However, there are instances where, depending on how great you are at negotiating, you can pass that cost on to your seller. Okay, I've done that before, where I said, we're haggling on a price, this, that, or the other. And as a concession, I said, okay, fine. I'll pay the amount you're saying is your lease, which is more than I budgeted for, on condition that you cover my stamp duty. And as long as both parties agree, that can be done. On the iTax platform, you will still have to be the one submitting the payment. So in that instance, the seller would likely give you a discount equal to the stamp duty amount that you're going to have to pay, or they could make the payment remittance for you to your bank so that you can then transfer it to KRA. Whichever way, a licensed advocate, which you should have by that point anyway, will advise you on, and you can make it a bit more interesting in terms of your purchasing process. But normally, it's the transferee, the person buying, who pays the stamp duty amount. And for those of you who are wondering what the amount is, it's a percentage of the valuation by the government valuer. If it's freehold, it's a standard 2%. If it's leasehold, it's a standard 4%. Okay. What happened, guys? Okay, Gladys is quiet over here while her laptop disconnects my questions.
There's one from TikTok.
Okay, question from TikTok.
This is from Hendrik, the best. TikTok.
Henry the Best.
Yes.
Okay, what's Henry saying?
Hi, sir. I'm the CEO of Dave's Digital Marketing Group. Can we work together?
CEO of Davis Digital Marketing Group. Can we what? Hendrik, first of all, thank you for tuning in and thank you for sending in your question. My question to you is, what on earth do you want us to work on together? Give me details. Computer dealer on TikTok says, owning land in Nairobi, must you pay both land rates and rent? If the property, yes, if the property is leasehold, you have to pay rates and rent. Okay? In Kenya, if your property is leasehold, you are subject to annual taxes to the national government in the form of rent and to the county government in the form of rate. Rent rate. I hope that's clear. There are instances where freehold land, which is not supposed to be taxable, hence the term freehold, you hold it for free, meaning you're not paying annual taxes. In some counties, they are levying rates on freehold land, but for sure, you will not pay any rent on freehold land. Rent is paid to the national government, rates are paid to the county government. If the land or property in, okay, owning land in Nairobi, if that land is leasehold, you will definitely need to pay both land rates and land rent. Mwakidimi on TikTok. What's up, Mwakidimi? Thank you for tuning in. Mwakidimi asks, what is happening at Ardhi Sasa? In what way, Mwakidimi? What are you referring to? Give me some context. Then I might be able to answer. Ahadi Group on Instagram. Hi Solo, what's up Ahadi Group? I was waiting to see when you guys were gonna Washu beat you guys today. Just so you know. Ahadi Group says, hi Solo, I was talking to a friend and they mentioned that sometimes land shifts. What do you do in such scenarios? Land shifts in what way? Please give me some context. You know, land in general, conventionally, even in finance circles, is referred to as fixed, immovable asset, suggesting that it's not supposed to shift. Okay, so maybe you can give me some context on what they meant or what circumstance constitutes shifting of land, and I might have an opinion or suggestion on what to do. Okay. OMS on TikTok says, where is the best upcoming and affordable land to buy in Nairobi? Okay, OMS. If you've heard me talk about this issue before, you will know that my answer is going to be, it depends. What does it depend on? First of all, in Nairobi, it depends on location. Okay? And then secondly, depends on your financial muscle. How much money do you have to invest? Depending on your budgetary limitations or fluidity, you may have more or less options to consider. Okay, so define your goal first, then the rest is easier. Step number one in the Grand Acres 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya is define your investment goal, which includes determining how much capital you have access to or are willing to risk or invest. Usual suspects are what we call satellite towns, peri-urban areas of Nairobi, many of which are actually not in Nairobi. So, for instance, everything along the Thika Highway corridor, those happen to be in Kiambu County, beginning with Ruiru, Juja, all the way to Makuyu, Pasifika. Those are great areas to look at. Have been for a long time and still continue to be. In the opposite direction, you have places like Paskitengela, Kisaju, Isinya, and the likes, all the way up to Kajiado town. Anything southern of Kajiado town, in my view, is a bit far removed from the warmth or the heat that is causing property values to go up robustly in the other areas. Along the Mombasa Road corridor, obvious suspects are Athi River. Of course, you can come closer to Syokimau, Katani. That area remains very vibrant. Even if you're buying today, which many might think is late, you're going to do well in the long term on valuations and development and that sort of thing. Past Athi River, you're looking at Lukenya all the way to the Machakos Junction. In my opinion, depending on your specific goal or reason for investing, all the way past Emali town, even up to Masimba, I think are good places to look at. And in the opposite direction, along Wayaki Way, Maimahio and beyond, those are obvious. Everything up to Maimahio turnoff is, even though you're in Kiambu County, basically from Kikuyu, that is Nairobi in terms of valuation, cost of land, and that sort of thing. So I hope that gives you a good range, but ultimately it'll depend on your budget. I know people, for instance, who don't buy anywhere outside of Westlands area. Believe it or not, the price of land in Westlands today is somewhere around 500 million shillings per acre. Yeah, so that guy may feel very differently about Kisaju, Isinya, Ruiro, and Maimahio, obviously. So it depends. That's why you need to be clear about your investment goals. But I hope that gives you an idea. OMS on TikTok, thank you for sending in your question. Halal Restaurants Kenya on TikTok says, how can one protect their interest if one is a middle person between a buyer and seller of a property? Halal Restaurants Kenya, that's an interesting way to describe a broker or agent, a middle person. I like that. It sounds better than broker. I am just a middle person, right? Middleman. Best way to protect yourself, Halal Restaurants Kenya, is to make sure that you have a signed letter of authority or agency agreement from whichever party you're going to be working for. If you're trying to find a buyer for a seller, get the seller to give you an agency agreement determining all the terms, your pay, the percentage, even where it's supposed to go, when it's supposed to go to you, everything you can think of. Have it signed beforehand. Similarly, if you're going to be helping a buyer find a seller, have an agreement with the buyer that they will compensate you should you connect them to the right seller and they do a deal. Only way to protect yourself. Okay, I know that's what you're trying to ask about, but a lot of people don't know this. Today in Kenya, if you're a middle person, a middleman, agent, broker, someone involved in the real estate space as an agent, you're acting as an agent for one party or another or both, you are required to register yourself with a body sanctioned by the Ministry of Lands constitutionally to register all land agents or property agents in Kenya. If you go about doing your business of agency or middle personing without registering with this entity, you could find yourself in hot soup because you're breaking the law. Okay, so even before that, get yourself registered. They have a very specific process. You can Google them. Guys, if you can, find out for me the name of that regulatory authority. I think it's a real estate agents regulation board or something like that. And we can share with everyone. Get on with the business of getting yourself registered so that you don't run afoul of the law and get penalized for conducting bona fide business. as a middle person. Okay, Halal Restaurants Kenya,
Estate agents registration.
Estate Agents Registration Board. Okay, EARB,
Yes.
Estate Agents Registration Board. You can Google that. It'll lead you to their website. They have instructions on how to get yourself registered. That is a requirement in Kenya today. A lot of people don't know this. Even if you're just, doing it as a side hustle, you think you don't need to be licensed. Well, you have to be registered. Okay? And all success to you. Okay, for those of you who are watching me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you should see the website over here. Where is that? Right. Right there. Okay, where my finger is pointing. I'm looking at screens on the opposite side. That's why it's cheeky. It's appearing on the opposite side on the phone, guys. Yeah. So right there, estateagentsboard.or.ke, and get yourself registered. If in doubt, just Google. Okay. Ahadi Group has a follow-up question about their first one. Mostly in the coastal region, sometimes the soil underneath shifts, I believe, due to tectonic shifts. Okay, I haven't experienced that at Hadi Group, not anywhere, not even at the coast. What I have experienced, unless you're talking about land that's beach fronting, and obviously sand would shift based on wind and um, oceanic activity. If the tide comes in, depending on the season, beacons can move or be covered or lost and that sort of thing. But anything outside of that, I haven't experienced. In non-coastal regions, especially in places where you have very thick layers of black cotton topsoil, what we have experienced is that when it rains, the soil drinks a lot of water and therefore it swells, okay, because it's holding all this water. And when it swells, it can displace beacons and that sort of thing, or shift the beacons if the beacons don't get dislodged completely. And then when it dries, it shrinks because the water has evaporated. And that sort of ebb and flow because of the rainy and dry season can cause land to seem to shift. But it's impossible for land to shift, especially if you're dealing with GPS coordinates. Those GPS coordinates will remain constant regardless of what's happening with the topsoils. On tectonic plates, I haven't experienced that. I have heard of this happening in Mai Mahio because of that valley near Mount Longonot and the fault line that cracks every so often and even separates the road. I saw an interesting meme once. Someone posted, because they do say at some point in the undefined future, the Rift Valley, which runs all the way from, is it Lebanon or Israel, down through um, our region, East Africa, all the way down into South Africa, northern part of South Africa, that one day it could split completely and our continent could be separated. And those who are in Naivasha could find themselves on the mainland, and the rest of us on this side could be a subcontinent type of island. Okay, and which scientifically is understandable. You can see how that could happen. But someone did a meme where they were advertising in advance beach plots in Mai Mahio, beachfront plots in Mai Mahio because of the fault line. If that fault line actually caused a continent to get split. I've heard of that. I haven't seen any practical instance where that has affected issues of land ownership. If your friend has some examples, we're happy to look into that. But coastal region, haven't heard of that either. Interesting question. Thanks, guys. And it's nice to hear from you. Loana Wahome on YouTube says, will you have another Imbuko project? Yes, we will. Stay tuned. Can you speak more about the locations of your projects and why they are strategic? Absolutely. We have three main criteria we use when we're scouting for land. Again, unlike agents or brokers or middle persons, we only sell land that we wholly own. Okay, that's a decision we made from day one in 2012 when we registered the business with the government of Kenya. We never wanted to act as an agent. We were only going to sell what we owned. That means at some point, we either have to buy the land outright or go into a partnership with a landowner if we're not making an outright purchase, where they would still have to transfer ownership of the land to us, because unless we own it, you're never going to hear about it. Okay? So for that reason, we're very picky about where we risk our capital, because sometimes we borrow to buy inventory or sites. And even when we're not borrowing, we're risking our own capital, which we do not take lightly. So three main criteria, just for your reference. Number one, proximity to Nairobi, because we are headquartered in Nairobi. We don't want to spend too much time on the roads, driving to sites, managing this, that, or the other, or wearing our customers out when we take them for site visits. So the sweet spot for us is a 2 to 3 hour driving radius from Nairobi. So you can just do a nice circle around Nairobi on Google. You can see how far 2 to 3 hour drive will take you. And you'll find that most of our sites are within that radius, whether it's in Buko, which is a 2.5 hour drive from Nairobi for us, actually slightly less now because of the expressway, whether it's Nanyuki, which is also about 2.5 hour drive for us, and Naivasha, Nakuru, Elementaita. Elementaita takes us, and that's the furthest west we have gone on our sites, is 1 hour, 45-minute drive. Okay, we haven't gone anywhere down towards the Namanga corridor just because I prefer the Oloitoktok corridor. Land is slightly cheaper and a lot more scenic in my view because of Mount Kilimanjaro. I was about to say Lake Kilimanjaro. Mount Kilimanjaro. And so you can see how our 2 to 3 hour driving radius. Why? It's easier to manage. Anything further than a 2 to 3 hour driving radius has to have an airport so that we're flying and not driving. Like the coast, we're currently very actively scouting the coast. Should we find something, finally, we will let you know. In case you're wondering if we have anything there, not yet. We haven't found anything with clean documents yet. But there you're flying, it's a 45-minute flight, so it's easy to manage. You're not gonna need to have to be on the road for 8 hours unless you just like to drive. Okay, so same with Lake Victoria region, Western Kenya. If it's flyable, we will consider that. But for driving, 2 to 3 hour radius. Second criteria is proximity to impending developments, whether it's big public projects like roads, dams, factories, whatever. Konza Techno City, that's a good example. Or private ones like Tatu City, Northlands, and any other private project that's at scale. Proximity to those are interesting. Why? Because they tend to put pressure on land prices faster than normal because of all the interest in the area due to this project. A lot of people will actually make it their goal to buy land around such projects as opposed to buying in the project, if it is possible, because they will experience a very rapid capital gains or value gains over a relatively short period of time. Okay, that's criteria number 2. Criteria number 3, the final one. Okay, maybe not the final. I'll tell you what the final one is. Criteria number 3 is unique geographic features. If you've noticed, all our sites have something unique about them. Something that I like to say God took care of before He created us. And what are those? Mountain views. In Imbuko, we have Mount Kilimanjaro. In Nanyuki, we have Mount Kenya. We have Lodaiga Hills and Aberdare Ranges to enjoy as part of our vistas and views from our site. or water frontages. Lake Elementaita, classic example. It's very important to us that we have these unique geographic propositions because that guarantees the desirability of that land for the long term, whether or not there's interesting developments happening in the area. We bought in Imbuko back in 2011, first time, 2011. There was nothing besides that stunning, gorgeous, breathtaking Mount Kilimanjaro view with a snow-capped top. Okay, I don't need to explain that. You have that emotional attachment reaction to the site because of the waterfront, because of a cliff top, because of a mountain view, and that sort of thing. So for all our properties, they need to check all three boxes. And there's a few others, softer ones like, do we like the owner? Okay, it's very important that you buy land with good vibes. Most people will not admit this, but the buying and selling of land, exchange of land ownership is a deeply spiritual process, even if you don't recognize it. So it's important that you do things right, even ethically. Okay. Also important that you have the goodwill of the seller and you demonstrate goodwill as well. In fact, that term goodwill is used in some sale agreements. It means something. And those are some of the softer criteria that we use. Besides the obvious, the documents have to be clean. There can't be any wishy-washy parts of the history of the land. Otherwise, we walk away. So I hope that helps. Lorna, if you want to check out our sites, just go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. You will see what we currently have available for you to consider, whether it's All Kekun in Naivasha, directly opposite the Safari Center, touching the highway, whether it's Rustling Dawn, touching Lake Elementaita, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're quickly selling out on that one. So if you're sitting on the fence, grab yours before they're gone. It's likely that we will not have any available from next week, considering what has happened this week. So grab yours now. Whether it's Nanyuki with Mount Kenya views, or Acacia Cove with the water frontage with Karionga Dam. I mean, we have amazing, unique options. Don't just sell land, we sell value. Okay? Don't just buy land, buy value. And if you're interested, reach out. We'll be happy to have a chat and arrange for site visits. Thank you for that question in a long time. Osborne Odongo, what's up, Osborne? Our number 3 regular. We should start a special club for all this. I see Kennedy Odhiambo on as well. Osborne is joining us from Canada. Greetings. Do you know how land politics registry in Homa Bay and Migori area is? Any plans for Grand Acres to venture and sell land from that neck of the woods? Yes, Osborne, we're scouting some opportunities in the west, a lot, especially on the lakeside, for the reasons I just explained. I haven't had any interactions with the Homa Bay registry yet. I have with the Kisumu one, and it's bad. I'm sad to say Kisumu is almost as bad as the coast, where even searches cannot be trusted. You need to do triple searches, get certified copies of green cards, go see the ancestral home of the seller, talk to the chief, sub-chief, every neighbor on either side, even the pets, dogs, cats, cows, if you can. I mean, Kisumu is bad. So you need to know what you're doing. That's been our experience. Same as the coast. We haven't touched base with Homa Bay yet or Migori, but if we do, I'll let you know, Osborne. I know how to reach you. And if you have any interesting leads for water or lakefront property there, let us know. We're actively looking. Thank you for that question, Osborne. Hussein Siyad on TikTok says, would you advise short-term investments, typically 1 to 2 years, and what areas would you recommend? Yes, Hussein, I would advise that you look for those. They are very few. I will say that. Generally speaking, land investments ought to be a long-term game. It's not a mid-term or short-term situation because you have no idea what's going to happen now to affect the future. Okay, and I think far too often many people invest in properties for short-term gains, which is not wise. You need to understand that you're dealing with a fixed, immovable asset that is subject to market dynamics, in addition to all sorts of other factors like your ability to reach buyers, your ability to package or create a product out of that land, like we do, um, the law, politics, pandemics, blah, blah, blah. If you were trying to sell land during the pandemic as an individual, kazi ngumu. Okay, so I do not advise people to make it an investment strategy. I have no problem with people looking for short-term investments, but always have in the back of your mind that if it doesn't go well in a 1 to 2 years, I'm fine sitting on this thing for 5, 10, 15 years. Undeveloped land, make sure you're not risking more than 30% of your long-term liquid savings, cash. Don't tie up all your cash in these investments because selling is not as easy or as quick as you might need in the future, and you just never know where you're going to end up. Okay. What areas would I recommend? Exactly the ones I answered before around the peri-urban zones, areas outside, busy urban areas like Nairobi is a good one, Kisumu, Nakuru, Mombasa, and such. Interestingly, Bungoma is a good place to look at as well. That's my home county. I'm not plugging it because that's where I'm from, because we've never done a project there yet. But Bungoma is, listen, anywhere on the western side of Kenya is good to look at. It's been, I don't know if it's underrated or ignored for far too long for whatever reason, but Western Kenya population is thick and fast growing. I think the last report I read suggested that the Luya communities might be the largest community by the year 2025. It's going to overtake the Kikuyus. Who would have thought that there are people who can multiply faster than Kikuyus? I have Kikuyus in the office, that's why I'm saying that. Now, what does that mean? Population density puts pressure on land prices because there's less of it for people to share. Basic economics, more demand, lower supply, higher the price. This is happening in Western Kenya. Luya zones, you can't ignore. Go buy now. Same with Luo zones. I don't even have to tell you about Kisii. I mean, Kisii, they finished their land a long time ago. That's why you'll find Kisiis investing everywhere. And they come with a whole village because there's no more land in Kisii for them to buy and trade. Population density there has outstripped the land supply. So you want to plan ahead of zones like these because those are good bets for amazing, decent, good appreciation even in the short term. Although as I've said, always have a long-term mentality. Play the long game and you'll never lose. Thank you, Hussein. That's a great question. We have 12 minutes. Today, yeah? That's awesome. Sami Gituko on TikTok says, best hedge to grow once you buy land. Wow, Sami, that's a great question for a landscape professional. I have no idea what is the best hedge to grow once you buy land. I will tell you what I know. It'll depend on your the type of soil, the rainfall patterns. If you're in Kajiado, it's going to be very different than if you're in Tigoni. So work with with the competent persons to guide you, landscape architects, landscape designers, gardeners, and that sort of thing would have the best answer for you on that one. But thank you for asking, Sami. I appreciate that. Elias Muriuki on Instagram says, what are some of the key items to check for when doing due diligence for an apartment purchase? Well, Elias, I would say it's mostly the same as land. Besides obviously checking out the developer, making sure that they have certificates of occupancy from the relevant authority, the National Construction Agency, engineering specs, specifications, specs, right? So are you working with a licensed advocate? First of all, let's from the Grand Acres website, www.grandacres.co.ke, and you'll be well on your way to even buying the apartment safely. Your licensed professionals like your advocate would be instrumental in making sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, and you should be fine. Thank you for that question. Yeah, make it loud so they can hear you.
We're really sorry for the large happening. It's because we're having a problem with our internet. That's why we're having some delays.
Is that happening online? I don't see it happening on the.
Yeah, Washu has mentioned, and we also check it.
Uh-huh. Okay, as you've heard, we're having poor internet connectivity today, so it's causing my beautiful face to look a bit blurry. Apologies for that. For those of you who think I'm ugly, it's a positive, it's a plus. I hope you can hear us at least and are getting the gist of what we're talking about. Okay, Kennedy.Odhiambo on Instagram. What's up, Kennedy? It's good to see your name up there. Kennedy says, please touch a bit on any incoming plans for your clients who would want to develop their units. Most definitely keeping in mind Goshen would be in the best position to assist. Well, you're right, Kennedy. We have felt the pressure to sort of put plans in place to facilitate our customers developing their land further after they bought the land from us. So we're in talks right now with a number of architects, engineers, civil, structural, electrical, plumbing, the whole consortium, if you will, is what we're trying to put together, including some financing partners who could be supportive in terms of the construction process or mortgaging thereafter after you've constructed. So I can't say too much more than that because nothing's been set in stone. We still have to sign agreements and have something meaty to share, but that's what we're working on now. We actually started late last year, just before Christmas, and I'm hoping within either this quarter or the beginning or mid of Q2 of 2024, we may have a good announcement to make around that. In the meantime, we're here to support and make sure that everyone is happy with utilization of their land after they've bought it. Thank you, Kennedy. That's a great encouragement. Last question. We still have 7 minutes. Nunueni bundles. I see Wix Mangutha. Hey, Wix. Thanks for tuning. Man, I've never seen Wix. Has Wix ever joined us for the live last week? Wow. Thank you, Wix, for joining. It's good to see your name up there. I love your I want to say Twitter. It's no longer called Twitter. It's called X. Have you guys seen Wix's post today?
Yeah, using the code.
Yeah, the codes on Microsoft, the Microsoft document animation. That's awesome. Good stuff, Wix. We love what you do. Thank you for tuning in. Jackson Kipchirchi. Did I pronounce that right? Jackson Kipchirchi. Okay, on TikTok says, is there a way to start something after losing some money from investments? Is there a way? Where zima simu Glado? Gladys, hata kama ni iPhone inatupigia kelele jameni, unasumbua watu hapa. Okay, Jackson, well, Gladys has been giving us a hard time about her new iPhone. She thinks she's like the best thing that has happened since sliced bread. New shamba too, but we accommodate you. Sorry, Glado, I had to hang you on that one. Okay, so Jackson says, is there a way to start something after losing some money from investment? Start something after losing some money from investment. Please give me clarity so I know how to answer you, Jackson. And I'm sorry if it's you who lost money from investments. It's not supposed to happen that way. It's a risk, comes with the territory, you know. Investments come with risks, but it's a sad thing when you lose money. I hope that wasn't you. But how start something? Please give me some more color so I know how to answer you. And thank you for sending in that question. Okay, we got 4 minutes. We have time for at least 2 more questions, right? 2 or 3 more questions. I see Weeks saying she's gonna come see us soon. Karibu sana, Weeks. You know where we're at. You don't need an appointment. Just bring cookies with you when you come, because we love cookies. Ninawaibia siri too. If you want discounts on shambas, come with cookies when you're coming to negotiate. Okay. Hussein Siyad on TikTok says, would you recommend buying developed apartments as far as appreciation goes? Oh, wow. That's a great question, Hussein. In my view, not really. I wouldn't buy apartments for the appreciation. I would buy apartments for the passive income opportunity. Okay, unless you're going to live in it. If you're going to live in it, I mean, appreciation will happen eventually because presumably you will stay in it long enough. But if you're buying for investments because you want to sweat that asset, meaning you want it to generate some dividends back to you in rent passively, that makes more sense than for capital gains tax. For you to harness any appreciation gains, you need to sell the thing, obviously. And you need to think about capital gains tax, which in Kenya now is 15% instead of 5 like it was. And that's a big hit to take, right? So I don't recommend that people look at it developed, especially developed. If you're building the apartments yourself, maybe, because you can achieve some serious savings as a builder as opposed to buying a retail product. So if you're buying a developed apartment, not for appreciation, for passive income, yes. I hope that helps, Hussein, and thank you for that. That's a really good question. I saw a comment from Kennedy. Kennedy Odhiambo, it just scrolled up, so I couldn't read it. Wicks, bring the cookies, no Fanta. Wicks says she'll bring cookies and Fanta. More like a bottle of champagne would be appropriate to go with the cookies, Wicks. Fanta iko na sukari mingi sana, wengine wetu tushanona ya kutosha. Okay, Kennedy Odhiambo says, Solo, I commend you for sensitizing on the need to diversify assets. Many people spend their savings not being informed or able to develop their units. Not being able to develop. Yeah, absolutely, Kennedy. It's, sound investment decisions need to look at the whole ecosystem, right? You can't be tunnel visioned. And you also shouldn't put yourself in a place where you have no more liquidity, whether it's to develop or to have an emergency fund. I mean, now we're getting into financial management issues, budgeting, blah, 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 fiscal responsibility, but that's part of investing. So you're absolutely right. And thank you for that kind compliment. We do take our community's interests personally. And to that extent, I really appreciate that comment. All right. It's now 9 p.m. on the dot. I want to say thank you so much for making time to join us today for our Facebook Live, Twitter Live, not Twitter, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Thank you so much for making time. We really appreciate you guys. You make it worth it. I hope someone has learned something beneficial. If you like today's convo, please make sure you share the link with someone you like, love, and respect, especially those who are looking for opportunities to risk capital in real estate. Don't be selfish with the good info, but only people you like, okay? If you don't like them, don't bother sending. Good vibes only. If you haven't liked or subscribed to our channel, please do so. It helps us reach more people like you. That's how the algorithms work. Help us accomplish our mission by reaching more people like you. Like, subscribe. Like the thing until it won't let you like it anymore. And we'll be on our way to making the impact that we desire to make. Thank you, Kennedy. I see your comment there. It's dope and informative as always. Thank you. You're dope also. Thank you all. God bless you and see you next week.